Welcome to our deep dive into the amazing world of the brain. We're going on a journey through time to see how this incredible organ evolved
Yeah.
from its humble beginnings to become the powerhouse we all have today.
It's truly fascinating to think that by tracing the brain's evolutionary path, we can gain insights into what makes us uniquely human.
Yeah.
It's a story spanning millions of years filled with incredible transformations.
So let's rewind all the way back to the very beginning.
Okay.
What did the earliest brains look like?
Imagine creatures like jellyfish drifting through the ancient seas.
Okay.
Their brains were nothing more than simple clusters of nerve cells.
Hmm.
These early nervous systems could only detect basic things like light, darkness, and the presence of food.
Right.
It's hard to believe that our complex brains share a common ancestor with those rudimentary systems.
It's amazing how far things have come. How did those simple clusters of nerves evolve into something more complex?
Well, evolution is all about adapting to new environments. As animals ventured into new habitats and faced new challenges, their nervous systems had to keep up.
Okay.
For instance, when animals moved from water to land, their brains needed to process new kinds of sensory information.
So did this change in environment lead to big changes in brain structure?
Absolutely. Fish and amphibians started to develop more distinct regions in their brains, like the forebrain and hindbrain.
Yep.
These regions allowed them to process sensory input more efficiently for hunting and navigating their surroundings.
Hmm.
It's like upgrading from a basic flip phone to a smartphone with all the bells and whistles.
I can see how that would be a huge advantage. What happened next in this brain evolution saga?
As we move along the evolutionary timeline, we see reptiles emerge with a more prominent cerebrum.
Mm-hmm.
This gave them an even greater degree of spatial awareness and allowed for more complex behaviors.
Can you give me an example of a complex behavior made possible by this development?
Think of a lizard stalking its prey.
Okay.
It needs to assess its surroundings, plan its attack, and execute it with precision. This requires a level of cognitive sophistication that wouldn't have been possible without a well-developed cerebrum.
Right.
It's a big step up from simply reacting to light and darkness.
So things are definitely getting more interesting in the brain department. But I have a feeling the real game changer was the arrival of mammals, right?
You're absolutely right. Birds and mammals ushered in a whole new era for brain development with the emergence of the neocortex.
Okay.
This newer outer layer of the brain is like the executive suite responsible for all the higher level cognitive functions that make mammals and birds so adaptable.
This neocortex sounds like a pretty big deal.
It is.
What exactly does it do?
The neocortex is where we find the neural circuitry for learning social behavior, problem solving, and decision making.
Mm-hmm.
It's what allows a squirrel to remember where it buried its nuts, a dog to learn tricks, and of course humans to engage in complex thought and language.
Okay.
It's the key to our flexibility and ability to thrive in diverse environments.
So bigger neocortex equals more brain power.
In a way, yes. But it's not just about size, it's also about organization.
Mm-hmm.
And as we shift our focus to primates and early hominids, we see brain size starting to really take off, outpacing body size.
Now, our primate ancestors were getting bigger brains and presumably becoming more intelligent.
Precisely. That larger brain size paved the way for more intricate social interactions, better tool use, and ultimately greater chances of survival.
Hmm.
Imagine a group of early hominids cooperating to hunt or care for their young.
Yeah.
Those complex social dynamics require a lot of brain power.
This is where the story gets really fascinating.
It does.
What about Homo erectus? They were walking upright, making tools. Their brains must have been quite advanced.
You're right on track.
Okay.
Homo erectus fossils show a significant increase in brain size compared to their predecessors. This suggests they were capable of even more sophisticated toolmaking and perhaps even more complex forms of communication.
Oh, wow.
Imagine them crafting hand axes, controlling fire, and maybe even exchanging rudimentary language. It's a huge leap forward in cognitive abilities.
It's incredible to think that we can piece together this story of brain evolution from fossils millions of years old.
Oh, right?
What a journey we've taken so far, from those simple nerve nets to the impressive brains of Homo erectus. It makes me even more curious to delve into what makes the human brain so special.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
That's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore the remarkable changes that led to the modern human brain, the so-called neocortex explosion, the significance of brain folding, and the fascinating role of genetics in shaping our cognitive abilities. Welcome back to our deep dive into the evolution of the human brain.
Last time we traveled millions of years back in time to see how the brain evolved from those simple clusters of nerve cells to the more complex structures found in our hominid ancestors.
And we saw how Homo erectus, with their ability to walk upright, make tools, and potentially even communicate in more advanced ways, represented a significant leap forward in cognitive evolution.
Exactly. So how did we go from Homo erectus to the modern human brain? What happened during that critical period of our evolution?
We'll get ready for what we call the neocortex explosion. Now, it wasn't an actual explosion, of course, but the expansion of the neocortex in Homo sapiens was truly remarkable.
Okay, remind me, the neocortex is that outer layer of the brain responsible for all the complex thinking stuff, right?
You got it. It's
Yeah.
like the brain's command center.
Yeah.
And in humans, this part of the brain underwent massive growth. It's what allows us to think abstractly, plan for the future, solve problems, and communicate using language. Think of all the things that make us human.
Okay.
Our creativity, our capacity for empathy, our ability to build civilizations, they all stem from the power of our
So
neocortex.
bigger neocortex, bigger brain power.
Essentially, yes. But as I mentioned before, it's not just about size, it's also about structure. Have you ever noticed all the wrinkles and folds on the surface of a human brain?
Yeah, they make brains look like walnuts. I've always wondered about those wrinkles.
Those folds, called gyri and sulci, are nature's ingenious way of packing more surface area into the limited space of our skulls. More surface area means more room for neurons and the connections between them, which translates to greater processing power.
So it's like folding a piece of paper to fit more of it into a small box.
Exactly. It's a brilliant strategy for maximizing our cognitive potential.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about brain evolution without mentioning genes, right? I remember learning about a gene called FOXP2 that's supposed to be the language gene.
FLXP2 is definitely a crucial player in brain development and evolution, especially when it comes to the emergence of language. But it's not quite as simple as a single language gene.
Ah.
FOXP2 is more like a conductor orchestrating a whole symphony of genes involved in neural development.
So it's a team effort.
Absolutely. And mutations in FOXP2 can lead to significant language impairments, highlighting just how important this gene is.
That makes sense. Now, where do Neanderthals fit into this story? They had pretty big brains too, didn't they?
They did. And recent research has revealed something truly remarkable. Neanderthals also possess the FOXP2 gene.
Wait, seriously, does that mean they could talk?
We can't say for sure that they had fully developed language like ours.
Yeah.
However, the presence of FOXP2 strongly suggests that they had at least some capacity for complex communication and social interaction. They may have even been able to teach each other how to make tools or share stories around the campfire. But here's where it gets really interesting.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
While Neanderthals had large brains, their brain structure was different from ours. It seems their brains prioritized different functions. For example, their brains were adapted for enhanced vision, which would have been essential for hunting in the low-light conditions of Ice Age Europe where they lived.
That's interesting. How would that affect language development?
Well, if their brains were prioritizing vision, it may have limited the space and resources available for developing those complex social brain regions that allowed Homo sapiens to thrive. You see, there's a trade-off in brain development. You can't have everything.
So Neanderthals had incredible eyesight, but maybe less sophisticated communication abilities.
That's a possible interpretation. And this raises a crucial question that scientists are still grappling with. Does brain size always equal intelligence?
That's a great question. I guess bigger isn't always better, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
While humans have relatively large brains, it's the intricate structure, the folding we talked about, and the genetic underpinnings that really matter when it comes to cognitive abilities. For example, elephants have larger brains than humans with even more neurons, but they don't build skyscrapers or write symphonies.
So it's about complexity and organization, not just sheer size. Kind of like how a tiny microchip can be more powerful than a room full of old computers.
Perfect analogy. It's a good reminder that the human brain is truly remarkable, not just for its size, but for the intricate interplay of its parts and the incredible potential it holds.
I'm completely captivated by all of this. What other brain evolution mysteries are waiting to be unraveled? Welcome back to our deep dive into brain evolution. It's amazing to think about the journey we've taken, tracing the development of the brain from those simple clusters of nerve cells to the complex organ that makes us who we are.
And we've seen how the human brain, with its expanded neocortex and intricate folding, really stands apart in the animal kingdom.
Right.
It's a remarkable product of millions of years of evolution.
But here's the question that's been on my mind.
Yeah.
Is our brain still evolving? I mean, we're not facing the same survival pressures as our ancestors who were dodging saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths.
That's a fantastic question, and the answer is a resounding yes. Evolution is an ongoing process, and the human brain is no exception. Even without those dramatic life or death scenarios, our brains are constantly adapting to the world around us.
So what's driving these changes? We're not suddenly growing new parts of our brains, are we?
Not exactly. The changes are more subtle, but still significant. For example, consider how our increasing reliance on technology is shaping our brains.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
Like how using GPS might be affecting our spatial navigation skills.
precisely. And the constant stream of information from our devices, the multitasking, the instant gratification, it's all creating a new environment for our brains to navigate. We're adapting to the digital age in ways we're only beginning to understand.
It's fascinating and a little bit daunting to think that our brains are being shaped by our modern lifestyles.
Yeah.
What other factors are influencing brain evolution today?
Well, it's not just technology. Things like diet, social interactions, and even exposure to stress can influence how our brains develop and function. For instance, studies have shown that chronic stress can actually shrink certain parts of the brain, while learning new skills can lead to the growth of new neural connections.
Wow, our brains are incredibly dynamic. So what does the future hold for brain evolution? Will our brains continue to adapt to technology? Could we develop entirely new cognitive abilities?
Those are some of the big questions scientists are exploring right now. It's impossible to predict the future with certainty, but one thing is for sure, the human brain is a marvel of adaptability and resilience. As we continue to face new challenges and opportunities, our brains will continue to evolve and change.
This entire deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've learned so much about the brain from its humble beginnings to the awe-inspiring organ it is today.
It really is amazing.
What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
The evolution of the human brain is an ongoing saga, and we're all a part of it. Our brains are constantly changing and adapting in response to our experiences and environment. Keep those brains active, keep learning new things, and stay curious about the world around you.
Perfectly said. Thanks for joining us on this brain-bending adventure. Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of the most complex object in the known universe, your own amazing brain.